Graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, make lots of money, right? That's what society tells us. If we look at the population, 33% of Canadians hold a 4-year bachelor's degree or higher, and 57% have some type of university or college credential. Now, this can include a wide range of careers from lawyers, engineers, accountants, doctors. Meanwhile, 22% of the population is employed in some type of skilled trade. This includes electricians, carpenters, welders. The construction industry will specifically be looking to fill 309,000 jobs between 2021 and 2030, and this is primarily driven by the retirement of nearly 259,000, or 22% of the population of current construction workers. With that in mind, I'd like to draw your attention to high school students or anyone that's looking to make a career change, because today we're going to compare the skilled trades to holding a 4-year university degree. But we're going to put aside all the subjective factors and we're going to look at the math. We're going to do a quantitative analysis of these two career paths because, let's be honest, no one can argue with numbers. For those of you just joining, my name is Brandon, and this is where we turn personal finance into common sense, because that's the way it should be. If you like this video, want to learn more, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends and family. Before we get into this, as a disclaimer, I do have a 4-year university degree, and I also have a certified trade from high school. However, I'm not biased towards one or the other, and therefore when I put together this analysis, I wanted to capture the vast majority of the population. And with that being said, we're going to look at this through the lens of 3 different individuals. The first person here we'll call Andrew. Andrew graduates with a 4-year university degree and has some student loan debt. Andrew captures a large majority of the population because of the 33% that graduate with a university degree or higher, approximately 50% of those finish with student loans. Andrew graduates with a starting salary of $68,000 and total student loan debt of $28,000. His starting salary comes from a range of various careers and is the average. So we looked at teachers that start at $48,000 all the way to lawyers that start upwards at $99,000. And $28,000 is the average student loan burden in Canada for someone that graduates with a 4-year degree. So there's some that graduate with $5,000, there's some that graduate and finance their whole degree with $80,000. Our second individual we'll call Sadie. Sadie also graduates from a 4-year degree and has a starting salary of $68,000. She fortunately was more frugal than Andrew and doesn't have any student loan debt. For the rest of the calculations, we assume both Andrew and Sadie attend university at age 18 and graduate after 4 years at the age of 22. And our last individual we'll call James. James also graduates high school at age 18, but instead of attending university, he goes to pursue a skilled trade. And the average for these skilled trades in Canada is $61,000 as a starting salary. However, this can vary greatly depending on province, industry, and overtime hours. And for this example, we'll assume that James is average and didn't require any student loan debt to pursue his skilled trade. And this is pretty common across the country because of employer-sponsored education programs and on-the-job training. And again, James makes up another 22% of the working population, 33% being those with a 4-year degree, and 22% pursuing a skilled trade. And now we'll carry out the rest of this analysis through Andrew, who has a 4-year university degree with student loan debt, Sadie, who also has a 4-year degree but did not take out student loans, and James, who pursued a skilled trade at the age of 18 out of high school. And before we get into this analysis, I wanted to address a few other assumptions that are used across all 3 individuals. First of all, anytime I say income or salary, I am talking about gross income. This is the total amount they receive before any taxes and other standard deductions. Anytime I say asset value, total savings, retirement assets, wealth, here I'm talking about the total of this individual's RRSPs, TFSAs, and non-registered accounts, which might include stocks and bonds. Further, we are not looking at physical assets such as cars and real estate. We're also not looking at net worth here, which would include other things such as liabilities, and other debt and loans. We're simply looking at total invested assets of these individuals. Next, we assume that each individual is investing 15% of their gross income into their retirement accounts as soon as they are able. Meanwhile, if someone has student loan debt, we assume that 15% was applied against the student loan debt before they started investing in retirement. The reality is that Canadians save 6% of their disposable income, which works out to about 4.5% of gross income. Finally, when looking at the rate of return, we used an average rate of 8% over the long-term horizon. This comes from the S&P averaging about 10% over each 20-year period in history, and the S&P TSX Composite Index averages 9.3% over history. Therefore, our conservative 8% amount factors in any management fees. Now that I've laid out the assumptions, let's compare the results. Now, under this first scenario, we looked at Andrew, who graduates at the age of 22, starting salary of $68,000 and $28,000 of student loan debt. Fortunately, he is very prudent. He takes 15% of his gross income and applies it against those loans, paying him off in less than 3 years. Because he has a university degree, we've assumed his income grows at a rate of 8% until age 30. Then from age 31 to 40, it grows at 5%, and then from age 41 all the way to retirement, an inflationary growth rate of 3%. This follows a common trend where university students get the experience they need early on to accelerate their income through base salary and other variable forms of compensation, such as bonuses and stock options. Next, we look at Sadie, who graduated at 22 as well, but with no student loan debt, and immediately begins investing 15% of her gross income. She too is just earning over $68,000 and shows the same income progression: 8% to age 30, 5% to age 41, and then 3% thereafter. Finally, when we looked at James, he graduates high school at 18 and has a starting salary of $61,000. However, we assumed more of an inflationary trend when it comes to his income. We gave James a 5% growth rate from age 18 to 30, and then only 3% thereafter. Now let's take a look at some results. Now, as expected, in their 20s, all three of these individuals have very similar incomes. But as you can see, in their 30s and 40s, Andrew and Sadie begin to accelerate and earn higher incomes than James. Finally, at retirement age 65, James is earning $312,000, while 4-year university degree students are earning $433,000. But let's keep in mind that income doesn't define wealth. We need to look at invested assets and retirement savings. In this next chart, I am presenting each individual's wealth based on their age. And what we can see here is that James, who's been working in trades since age 18, has accumulated about $144,000 by the age of 25. Andrew, who had to pay off his student loans first, has about $19,000 saved, and Sadie, who began investing at age 22 because of no student loans, has about $54,000 in invested assets. Fast forward all the way to age 40, and James is still ahead. He has invested about $1 million at this point. By retirement age 65, Andrew, again who represents 50% of the 33% that has a 4-year degree, has accumulated about $7.5 million. And Sadie, who represents the other 50% of the 33%, has accumulated about $8.3 million by age 65. And James, who started investing at age 18, has accumulated a total $8.7 million. Are you shocked? I know I was the first time I did the math on this one. Because let's recap here. We have Andrew and Sadie, who have university degrees and are essentially earning more money than James from age 30 all the way through retirement at age 65. But James becomes wealthier, approximately $1.2 million wealthier than Andrew, based on the sheer fact that he didn't take out any student loans and he started investing earlier at age 18. And again, these are just based on averages and supported assumptions that are meant to capture a large majority of the population. There's of course outliers such as doctors and lawyers that go on to make $500,000 by the time they're 35. And then there's skilled trades workers that might make millions of dollars by age 40 because they went off and started their own company. We are looking at averages here that are meant to capture upwards of 70 or 80% of the population. But maybe it's not all bad for the university degree. Let's take a look at another scenario. In this case, our university graduates are receiving a 12% year-over-year income increase from age 22 to age 30, meaning that they're earning $170,000 at that time. Comparatively, James, who's been working in trades since the age of 18, is earning about $111,000 at age 18. And for the rest of the age categories, we kept the income growth consistent. 5% from age 31 to 40, and then we have 3% from age 41 to retirement. And as you can see, the university grads end up with nearly double the amount of income as James, our skilled trade worker, at the age of 65. This is more than a $300,000 difference. But let's see how they compare in terms of retirement assets or invested savings. Here we see a similar story at age 30 as we did in the first scenario, where the university grads accumulate $156,000 and $207,000, and comparatively, James has accumulated $304,000. And it's not until age 42 that Sadie, our university grad that didn't take any student loans, reaches the same invested assets as James. And hope is not all lost for our university grads, because by the age of 65, they have accumulated $9.9 and $10.6 million respectively. That's for Andrew, who took out student loans, and Sadie, who did not take out any student loans. Comparatively, James, who's been working in trades since the age of 18, has accumulated $8.7 million. Still nothing to complain about. And so to wrap up this scenario, not only can we see that our university grads, Andrew and Sadie, earn significantly higher incomes, approximately double at the age of retirement, but they also come out wealthier. And another takeaway here is that if you're looking to retire at age 45 with approximately $1.5 million in invested assets, you're essentially indifferent between the three alternatives. And in our final scenario, scenario 3 here, we're going to account for the fact that the average Canadian takes 10 years to pay off their student loan debt. Further, we will assume that this student doesn't begin investing until age 31, which is the point at which they've repaid all their student loans. In terms of income growth, there's no change here. Andrew and Sadie, who both went to university, are going to see an 8% growth rate from age 22 until 30, 5% from age 31 to 40, and then 3% thereafter. Meanwhile, James is going to be more inflationary, so from 18 to 30, he sees a 5% growth rate as he establishes his career, and then 3% from age 31 all the way to retirement. Really, where I want to draw your attention to here is the difference between Andrew and James. Andrew being the light blue pillar on the left, and James the dark on the right. And as you can see, by age 40, James, working in trades, has accumulated approximately $1 million, while Andrew has accumulated $362,000. And by age 65, the spread has grown to $3.1 million, where Andrew has $5.6 million saved, and James has that $8.7 million. Or looking at this from a different lens, let's assume that James retires at age 65 from the trades, while Andrew would have to continue to work for another 5 years until age 70 to accumulate the same $8.7 million that James has. And you can see that if they both continue working, it is not possible for Andrew to catch up to the worth that James has. This scenario is a great example of compound interest and generational wealth. If you want to learn more about compound interest, check out my link below in the description. After walking through these 3 scenarios, I want to reiterate that I'm not here to recommend that you go to university or go master a skilled trade or go straight into the workforce out of high school. I am here to debunk the idea that going to university and getting a degree is going to offer you a far higher income and you'll come out far wealthier than someone who enters the trades. And of course, there are many other sort of qualitative factors to consider. Work-life balance, whether you're working outside or in the office, there might be shift work at play, and so forth. I think there are 2 key takeaways when we're looking at this analysis. The first one is that you should begin investing as early as you can, and the second one is to put aside money when you're making a career decision as big as this. I think the focus here is that you want to look at your goals and what you're passionate about. If you're in high school, maybe you want to take a year off after to consider this, or if you're already working, you might be making more career changes. What this really shows is that there are multiple paths to becoming wealthy, so what you want to do is choose the path that you enjoy most. That's all for today. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and always remember, pay yourself first.